Okay, Lori here with a little talk about thinking like a designer and using that in your visualizations. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is it's not gonna let me show you. There we go. That form follows function. In design work, that's the mantra, which is what we create or what we design has to be bounded in what we want the thing to do. And there are three A's that help us to accomplish that in design work, and that's affordances, accessibility, and aesthetics. And of course, if you want to add one more, you have to add one more to assure your success, and that's acceptance. So let's run through these. Affordances, it's not a word that makes a whole lot of sense to us intuitively, but what it means is making whatever it is you're trying to have the audience see or do, your user, if you will, making things easy for your user. So I have some props here. And the first of them is a coffee scoop. And as you can see, this coffee scoop is double function. If you're much of a barista, you know that this is the scoop for our coffee beans. And then after they've been ground, this is how we tamp it down in the barista machine. So that's pretty handy. And it's dual purpose, and they thought about it pretty clearly. These are two things that go together. You could have two separate tools, but in this particular case, I believe it's Starbucks figured out you could put them together. Here is another, which is an ice cream scoop. One of the key things about affordances is that it's clear immediately how you're supposed to use it. And in this particular case, this is from Cutco, one of our local companies. And it's pretty clear that I should be holding it like this and using it to scoop as such. And I can use the pointy end to dig down into the ice cream if it's a little bit hard. So already I can tell how to use it, and I didn't get any instructions. Here I brought you two can openers to take a look at. There's this one, the more basic unit, and there's this one, which is a little bit more deluxe, and this is by OXO. Let me show you the handle on this one. It's smaller, and these are a little bit harder to grip. In this particular one, this is very soft, so it's easy to grip, and this is larger, which gives me more leverage, and it's easier for me to turn. So I would argue that this has more affordances, but both of them are pretty clear how we're supposed to use it. This is a muddler for any of you that drink things like mojitos. The muddler is made, clearly we're supposed to grip it up here and use it to tamp things down. It's got little teeth on the edges so that it can bite into the lime and dismantle the lime and give us more juice. So that's the muddler. This is a scrubby brush for the sink. And as you can see, here, I'll hold it up. It sits on the side of the sink, and obviously it would rest there. So after I've scrubbed dishes or made a mess with it and it's all wet and icky, it will drain down into the sink. It also lies flat if you leave it on the countertop like that, and it stays up off the counter and also will dry that way. This is one of my favorites. If you've ever used a pastry brush, particularly with olive oil or something like that, you lay it down and it makes a mess wherever it is. In this particular case, as you can see, you lay it down, the brush does not touch the surface of whatever it's lying on. The weight is in the handle, and it's pretty convenient. It also hangs on the side of your bowl, which I think is really nice. You can just set it into the bowl. All of those are examples of affordances, and I'm sure you can think of tons of affordances on your own, things that you do with your computer that your computer has set out for you, or your car and its dashboard, and a bunch of other places, chairs, desks, standing desks, things like that. Those are all built with affordances in mind. When we're talking affordances and visualization, we can use the concept of highlighting the important stuff so that our viewers know exactly what they should pay attention to. And here are some of the ways we can highlight those important things up on the screen. Oh, let's go back one real quick. You do not want to use blinking or flashing. Most people find it annoying, and it will just detract from you as the speaker, so let's not use that. Affordances can also be layered. So let's say that you have one part of the presentation that's pretty important, but one that's really super important. Well, you can draw maximum attention by making the super important item large, colored, and bold. And as you can see in this visual, both the cake stands out and my draw max attention heading stands right out. And that's because I've used your pre-attentive attributes to help make that happen. Another thing you can do to improve the affordances for your viewer is to eliminate these distractions. And here you want to ditch data or ditch elements that you don't need. Get rid of them. Where you can summarize instead of providing detail, do so. Eliminate anything that you don't need. If it's not essential to the visualization or understanding the visualization, get rid of it. And let's let the elements that we might need to be there for reference, like possibly lines or axes or things like that, let's fade them into the background by making them light gray, for example. So let's remember to get either completely eliminate or fade out the elements that are not important. Ditch any extraneous data or message that you have in there. Remember, one visual, one message. You'll have much more success. And of course, summarize whenever you can as opposed to providing too much detail. There is such a thing as a visual hierarchy, and we can use this to elevate what's important. So remembering that our eyes start on the upper left side, chances are if we put something there and we don't put any other cues, then that's what our eyes or our audience's eyes are going to go to. If for some reason we don't want to put our most important element up there, then we're going to have to use some pre-attentive attributes to draw the attention someplace else. So let's talk about this graph on the lack of diversity. Where does your eye go first? Well, mine goes to the title a little bit, but that's fighting. It's fighting a lot with the lower right-hand side where I've got a fair amount of brighter colors. And I've got some really strong, darker colors in my lower left side. So my eyes are a little confused about where to go, but it's still not a bad graph. Leveraging your title, though, can really help with that. If I changed my title to Why It Feels Like Tech is Full of White Guys, suddenly you know you should be looking, oh, male versus female, white versus Asian. You've already immediately pick up from the subtext down here under breakdown by gender and breakdown by ethnicity. You already are going to the story that I'm trying to tell. Accessibility is very, very important. This is making sure that what we create is easy to understand and easy for a multitude of different people in your audience to grasp. On the left-hand side here, you'll see the Metropolitan Railways Company's map of London. This is their subway map long ago. And this is their subway map, or their tube map, if you will, nowadays. And you can see that it is not actually realistic, the right-hand side. It doesn't exactly mimic where the river is and things like that. It's simplified. And it got rid of a lot of things that it didn't need. If you don't need to know all the intervening streets, they're gone. So remember, we eliminated and we're summarizing a little bit here. I think that there's a fabulous video on this that I will place on the website for you all. But I think that accessibility is very important. And if you increase your affordances, you will probably increase your accessibility. One quick sideline is that 10% of male population is colorblind, a somewhat significantly smaller portion of females. So if you're doing red and green, be careful. Try blue and orange instead. All right, here's another affordance that you need to use. Accessibility. Don't overcomplicate. The holy grail of visualizations is that it's legible, it's clean, the language is simple and clear. You know exactly what you're supposed to get out of it, and everything on it is simplified. So if you look at your final visualization and ask yourself these questions, is it legible? Is it as clean as it can be? Can I clean up or clear up the language a little bit? Or can I simplify it in some way? You will improve your visual if you ask yourself those questions and then take action. The third A is aesthetics, and that question is, does it need to be pretty? And our little person here that I've photographed in Costa Rica, our little monkey, says, sure is. it is important for it to be attractive. You can be smart with color, you can pay attention to alignment, leverage your white space, and try to make it pleasing to the eye. And that way will be one less distraction from the message that you're trying to get across with your visualization. And then finally, the fourth key to success with a visualization is making sure that it will be accepted by the audience. Sometimes you're going to ask them to do something or imagine something or look at a graph that they're not used to looking at. Remember to WIF them, which is what's in it for them. Be sure to put that up front in your presentation and remind them throughout that the reason that we're trying this new approach is that it will be easier for them to see where their sales are going, or easier for them to understand where we're having difficulties in operations. So make sure that you put a WIF them in there for them. Also, if you're trying to get acceptance for a new type of graph, you can show them a side-by-side, and often they will, as we did with the London Underground map, you can quickly see that one is actually better. Yes, the one on the right is strange, it's different. We've never seen anything quite like it before, but it works. And sometimes that side-by-side can be very persuasive. If you aren't sure, ask some of your audience ahead of time how they feel about it. Get input as you're creating your visualization. People who haven't seen the visual 1,000 times will probably have some impressions that they can share with you that will help you improve your visualization and improve its chances of being accepted by your audience. And then finally, lead them. If you have some key people in the audience that are normally dissenters, or people who pick out problems and highlight issues, meet with them ahead of time. Show them your visualization, ask for their input, ask them to help you get others on board. It's amazing how you can get the momentum going if you get the right players talking about how they like your new visualization. So finally, let's agree that design is everywhere, and let's just make sure it's in our visualizations too. Thanks for listening.